Welcome to our channel. Today, we discuss Adam's soccer camp and his genius son who never closes cabinet doors. Casey chuckles helplessly, but deep down she felt a twinge of sadness, so she told her son he couldn't go to camp, and Adam's brain went into meltdown mode. Consumed by anger, Adam failed to grasp the depth of his mother's words and simply scowled at her, calling her a nutcase. To cheer her son up, Casey bought him his favorite air pump. Despite life's hurdles, she wore a smile, hoping to mend their relationship. Casey stood there, realizing how fast time flies. Her son was no longer the little whiz kid he used to be, leaving her feeling a bit. Still, Casey forced a smile, switching the calendar from Adam's not home to Adam's home, and hugged her blankets in defeat. She gingerly opened Adam's door, laid down a sleeping mat by the bed, and under the dim light, her face radiated peace. Casey's sharp personality change puzzled her husband and confused her son more. Only her wondering brother Sean was unsurprised. Whenever she was down, Casey would vent to Sean, her brother, who always had a way of making her laugh. On the flip side, Casey felt she had to take on the role of a responsible sister since her brother was quite the oddball, wandering around aimlessly. Sometimes not hanging from trees, he'd wear a plastic bag around his neck, promoting eco-awareness as street warrior for nature. Casey would drag him to a restaurant, but he insisted on eating leftovers, treating money like it was some evil treasure. Keep her brother out of trouble, Casey often brought him food and clothes, pretending they were just trash ready to be thrown out. Yet this seemingly carefree brother could sniff out his sister's worries and even went to tell on her to brother-in-law Paul. Subtitle: The next day, Paul went back home without any mercy, gathered up all his clothes, and rode away on his bike in silence with dissatisfaction in his heart, while Casey helplessly watched him leave. She felt both helpless and heartbroken, and the only one left to feel sorry for her was the buzzing dog at her side. This dog was practically glued to her. Not understanding why, Casey kept sending it back to the neighbor's house. Perhaps that's why the neighbor finally caved, but Casey knew in her heart that she had found a little dog who could keep her company. Before long, Casey became attached to this little dog, silently understanding that they both shared a sense of loneliness. She called for Adam, excitedly describing that summer when they rode on that old tandem bike together like kids again. We used to play and glide along that magical sandy path in the sunshine. Now, I truly wish my son could ride with me once more, just like back then. But this time around, Adam turned me down once again. Casey then turned to her brother, but Sean turned her down as well. Her old pals were nowhere to be found, leaving her feeling down. She realized she couldn't find anyone willing to ride with her, feeling a twinge of injustice inside. The next morning, Casey, still in a deep sleep, suddenly felt a tingle in her feet. She opened her eyes to find those two staring at the dog, getting ready to ask her for help. As she was to return the dog to the neighbor, she saw Paul with flowers, looking puzzled. He didn't understand how it turned into this, but he knew he couldn't afford to lose his wife. The truth is, he deeply loved Casey, but still hesitated. To avoid the house feeling too empty, Casey invited Sean and one of her students over for dinner. Excitingly, her brother actually had a new girlfriend. At the dinner table, Sean kicked over a chair, nearly causing Casey to fall, and everyone burst into laughter. However, as they settled down to chat, Casey felt like an outsider, struggling to fit into their little world. Luckily, under the table, the dog returned, bringing back the laughter and joy. When it was time to say goodbye, Casey gifted her brother that old bike and gently closed the door. She stood on her tiptoes through the leaves, catching a glimpse of that long-lost summer dream. That day, when Casey arrived back home, she discovered a colorful shell path laid out inside. The subtitles show the shell stretched all the way into the living room, and upon seeing Casey approaching, Paul got down on one knee, passionately professing his love just as he had done back then. Tears blurred her vision. Casey was touched by his gesture, but she was no longer that girl. She wished her husband would grow up rather than just play with sand and ignore the cleanup. The couple fell into Cold War again. Flustered, Casey left but hit the dog, backing up. In the hospital, Casey felt guilty, repeatedly apologized to Marlene, who then asked a question. "Casey, are you okay?" Hearing this, Casey's expression turned serious instantly. It turned out that Marlene's husband had passed away from cancer, and that Doug had been beside her for months. Thus, Marlene became the first to know about Casey's condition and the person with whom Casey could share her woes. From then on, the two women grew closer, becoming best friends who shared everything. And that seemingly cold-hearted neighbor, in fact, had a warm heart. She gave Sean her husband's favorite suit. Also, when Adam was caught stealing a game console, she pretended to be his grandma to stop him and give him a chance to find work. She understood the pressure and pain Casey felt and simply wanted to help her shoulder some burdens. That day, Casey excitedly told her son about the annual BAFTA race. At first, Adam declined, but upon hearing that his dad would also participate, he changed his tune, much to Casey's